All right, if you build, manage, or even just deploy AI here in the United States, your entire rulebook is about to get a major rewrite. A brand new White House action plan just landed, and in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what this means for you, the person actually building this stuff.
So here's what happened. On July 23rd, the White House dropped this document right here, America's AI Action Plan. Now, don't let the length fool you. It's only 28 pages. But what's inside sets a completely new direction for AI in this country. And the goal, well, it's stated pretty plainly. Nothing less than total global dominance.
And, that really brings us to the core question of this whole explainer. It's the one that I'm sure every single person in the tech industry is asking themselves right now. Are these new rules going to be a green light to speed you up? Or are they a whole new web of regulations that could shut you down completely?
Okay, so to really get this plan, we first have to understand why it even exists. And trust me, this isn't just about cool new tech. This is all about geopolitics. It's a high-stakes game.
And the way they frame this is absolutely critical. The forward of the plan, it doesn't talk about AI like we might, consumer apps or productivity tools. No, it frames AI as a fundamental national security issue, putting it right up there with military power. The goal is laid out in no uncertain terms: unquestioned and unchallenged global technological dominance. That's a direct quote. So you might be asking, why the sudden urgency? Well, this plan is a direct shot back at these massive, multi-billion-dollar AI investment packages that we've seen from both China and the EU. It's like Washington is in this global tug-of-war for talent, and this action plan, it's designed to be the rope. It's about providing the right incentives and, maybe more importantly, removing the hurdles to keep our labs and our startups from packing up and moving overseas. Okay, so that's the why, this high-stakes global race. Now let's get into the how. What's the actual blueprint they've laid out for winning this thing? The whole plan really boils down to these three core pillars. First up, accelerate innovation. That means cutting red tape and, importantly, empowering workers. Pillar 2, build the actual physical American AI infrastructure. We're talking the heavy-duty stuff. And third, lead the charge in international diplomacy and security. Basically, export our tech and set the rules for the rest of the world. And listen, if you want to get the vibe of this whole document, this one quote from the introduction just says it all. There's this huge emphasis on the physical world. I'm talking about a direct mandate to aggressively build out the data centers and the energy grid that AI needs to run on. It's all about creating a dominant ecosystem, and it even pushes back on what the plan calls radical climate dogma to get there. And kind of woven through all three of those pillars are these 4 key principles. The plan pushes for a worker-first agenda. The idea is to complement jobs, not just wipe them out. It also mandates that any AI the government buys has to be free from ideological bias. And finally, it's all about prioritizing security while at the same time stripping away regulations that they think are holding the private sector back. Okay, now we get to the really juicy part, especially for anyone who's actually building this stuff. This is where the rubber meets the road, where all this policy talk smacks right into the code you're writing. We're talking about the big controversies, the battlegrounds that are popping up because of this plan. It really comes down to these 6 topics. This is where you're going to see the sparks fly: deregulation, bias, power, chips, jobs, and trust. Seriously, if you're in the AI space, you have got to be watching all 6 of these debates. So let's break them down one by one. All right, first up, deregulation. The plan is super explicit here. It wants to get rid of what it calls onerous regulation to just unleash innovation. But, the ink wasn't even dry on the page before critics like the ACLU were firing back. They're warning this could be a rights rollback, and it's setting up this massive tug-of-war between the federal government and the states over who actually gets to make the rules. Next up is the debate on bias, and wow, this is a huge one. The plan uses some really strong language. It mandates that any AI system the government buys has to be free from, and I'm quoting here, top-down ideological bias, and that it must pursue objective truth. Now, this is a direct shot at what some people see as political correctness baked into these models. But it immediately raises this enormous question:
What is objective truth? And more importantly, who gets to decide?
Then there's the issue of pure power. Look, AI is incredibly thirsty for energy. So to hit that goal of dominance, the plan calls for a massive build-out of the U.S. energy grid. Why? To power all the new data centers. It directly ties AI leadership to how much power we can generate, which, as you can imagine, sets up a major showdown over energy policy and climate goals.
And the debate on chips, this is pure geopolitics. The strategy here is basically a two-part play. Part 1, bring semiconductor manufacturing back home to the U.S. to lock down our supply chain. Part 2, use beefed-up export controls as a weapon, specifically to stop adversaries like China from getting their hands on the most advanced chips.
Okay, but what about jobs? That's the question on everyone's mind, right? The plan tries to tackle that anxiety head-on by pushing this worker-first agenda. The big message is that AI should complement human work, not just replace it. And to back that up, it calls for new federally funded programs to retrain and upskill the workforce for this new AI-driven world.
And finally, we have trust. The plan comes at this from two different angles, kind of like two sides of the same coin. On one side, it wants to fight misuse. It specifically calls out the need for tools to shut down malicious deepfakes, especially in our legal system. But on the other side, it wants to speed up adoption by creating what it calls a try-first culture. This means setting up these regulatory sandboxes where companies can test new AI tools in super important areas like healthcare, but with a lot less red tape.
So that's the whole landscape. The big question is, what does this actually mean for you, the person building the AI? Let's get super practical. Let's talk about what you need to be doing, like, right now. All right, let's make this really simple with a quick reaction-ready checklist. First, you're going to need a state toggle to handle all the different state-level laws that are coming. Second, decision logs. You have to be able to prove your models are transparent and fair. Third, a chip and watt budget. You need to get a handle on your infrastructure costs. And fourth, a trust badge to show everyone that your model is reliable and secure.
And here's a quick 30-day sprint to get you ahead of the game. Week 1, start mapping out this new legal landscape. Week 2, get your APIs logged for compliance and transparency. Week 3, you've got to run an energy audit to figure out your infrastructure needs. And by week 4, be ready to demo your tech. Because if you want to work with the government, you're going to need to show them what you've got.
But hold on, here's a fascinating little wrinkle in all of this. While the plan is pushing so hard for deregulation, a recent poll shows that 67%, 2/3 of the American public actually wants more rules for AI, not fewer. And that creates this really interesting tension between the official government strategy and what people actually want.
Which brings us to the final big thought here. Look, this action plan is insanely ambitious. I mean, it's aiming for an industrial revolution, an information revolution, and a cultural renaissance all rolled into one. But the real question is, will this super aggressive push for dominance kick off a new golden age for American innovation? Or will it just draw new and maybe even more dangerous battle lines in a global tech arms race?
You know, there is so much more to unpack in this. So if you're ready to really do a deep dive, we've linked the original plan and all the core analysis right down in the description. Go check it out.